Before we get into steel thickness, weld seams or spout geometry, it's worth pausing on a simple truth that modern consumers rarely confront. In the middle of the largest industrial war in human history, engineers designed a fuel container so well that many examples are still functional 8 decades later. Not museum pieces, not curiosities. Working containers that can still hold fuel, seal properly, and survive abuse that would destroy most modern equivalents in a year. That alone should raise an uncomfortable question. If something worked this well in 1940, with far less advanced manufacturing, why did we stop making it this way? The Second World War. German jerry can was not a luxury item. It was not meant to be cheap, disposable or fashionable. It was meant to survive war. That single design goal shaped every decision that followed, and it produced an object that quietly outperformed almost everything that came after it. Understanding why requires looking at how it was built, how it was used, and why modern systems no longer reward durability the way wartime logistics once did. The original jerry can was designed around survival, not convenience. When Germany standardized the Wehrmacht fuel can in the late 1930s, engineers focused on battlefield realities rather than consumer expectations. Fuel had to be transported by soldiers under fire, stacked in trucks, dropped from vehicles, dragged across ground, and reused indefinitely. The result was a 20-litre container made from thick, stamped steel halves, seam-welded for strength rather than appearance. The triple-handle design allowed one person to carry 2 cans at once, or 2 people to pass cans efficiently in a chain. The recessed cap prevented damage during drops. The internal air pocket allowed expansion without rupture. Even the X-shaped embossing was structural, preventing the walls from flexing and cracking under stress. None of this was accidental. Every feature was a response to failure modes observed in earlier designs. Modern users can apply this lesson directly. When choosing storage equipment today, prioritize structural reinforcement and load handling over weight savings or sleek form. A container that feels overbuilt is often the one that survives long-term. The materials and manufacturing choices were deliberate and uncompromising. WWII jerry cans were made from steel thick enough to resist denting, puncture and fatigue. The welds were continuous, not spot-welded. The lining resisted corrosion from fuel and moisture. These choices increased cost and weight, but they dramatically extended service life. Modern fuel cans often use thinner steel or plastic to reduce cost and meet shipping efficiency targets. Plastic degrades from UV exposure, becomes brittle in cold weather, and softens near heat. Thin steel dents easily, compromising seals and structural integrity. The wartime jerry can accepted none of these trade-offs. A practical modern takeaway is simple. For long-term fuel storage, seek metal containers with reinforced seams and minimal plastic components. Even if they cost more up front, they reduce replacement cycles and failure risk over decades rather than seasons. The design assumed repeated reuse instead of planned replacement. One of the most overlooked aspects of the jerry can is how it was meant to circulate endlessly through logistics networks. A can would be filled, emptied, refilled, repaired and reused until it physically failed. There was no expectation of disposal after a few years. This mindset shaped tolerances, material selection, and repairability. Today's consumer economy encourages the opposite. Products are optimized for cost and compliance rather than longevity. When a modern fuel can cracks or warps, it is replaced, not repaired. The Second World War approach treated equipment as infrastructure, not consumables. You know, survival planners can adopt this mindset by choosing gear that can be repaired with just basic tools. A steel container that can be re-welded or resealed will always outlast one that has to be discarded after a single failure. Post-war regulation and economics, well, they changed what manufacturers were actually rewarded for. After the war, civilian markets started to prioritize affordability, ease of use, and regulatory compliance over, battlefield durability. Environmental regulations, altered materials, and spout designs, and consumer safety standards discouraged heavy steel containers. Manufacturing shifted toward plastics and lighter alloys to reduce costs and shipping weight. None of these changes happened because the old design stopped working. They happened because, the incentives changed. Durability beyond a certain threshold just didn't produce profit anymore. This isn't a conspiracy or some kind of moral failing. It's simply a structural reality of modern production. But it does explain why an 80-year-old container can still outperform many modern ones in real-world abuse. Why the jerry can still matters for modern preparedness. Fuel remains one of the most critical resources in any crisis. It powers generators, vehicles, tools, and heating systems. A failed container can leak, evaporate, or become unusable at the worst possible moment. The Second World War jerry can, really shows us that durability isn't just some abstract idea. It's absolutely achievable. Even today, modern versions inspired by that original design are still out there, often used in military or industrial settings, and honestly, they're still among the most reliable choices you can find. If you're storing fuel these days, I'd say, just stick to those same tried-and-true principles. Pick containers built for repeated use, store them properly to fend off corrosion, and, rotate the fuel inside, but not the container itself. Treat fuel storage as a long-term system, not just some throwaway accessory. The real reason we stopped making them the old way is pretty simple. We stopped needing them to last. It's a bit uncomfortable to admit, but the WWII jerry can survive because it absolutely had to. If it failed, it meant stalled vehicles, lost battles, and tragically, dead soldiers. These days, modern systems cushion us with redundancy, better logistics, and quick replacements. So durability became more of an option than a necessity. But, for folks preparing for uncertain times, durability is starting to matter again. That old design philosophy, it's not out of date. It's just sort of faded from memory. If this look at wartime engineering and survival design has helped you view everyday objects in a new light, why not subscribe for more lessons rooted in history that are still relevant today? And hey, share this video with someone who values tools made to last, because the past still has plenty to teach us, if we're willing to listen.